When you download the iHeartRadio app and put the WD and Shook Show on your list of stations, you will prove to the world that you're a little bit smarter than everyone else. The WD and Shook Show, your connection to the signs of the times.
Now, you have a source for the truth in the news. W. Dean Shook, End Time News. Your connection to the signs of the times.
And welcome to this edition of End Time News. I'm your host, W. Dean Shook. Thank you for being here so very much. I was listening to another program here recently, and on this program, they said that this threat from ISIS or from Islamists in America is an illusion, that it was the government trying to keep us scared. Well, those of you that listen to this program on a regular basis, you know that's not true because I report the truth about this all of the time. I'm going to do that again right now. The real threat of ISIS in the homeland. The latest indicator that ISIS, just the latest label that's slapped on this growing phenomenon of radical Islamists, comes courtesy of Great Britain, where Palmyra Silva, an 82-year-old grandmother, was beheaded, allegedly by the hands of a charming character called Fat Nicholas. Well, Obese Nick is reportedly a Muslim convert. Now, the dangerous ideology of ISIS, which is also the basic ideology of Hamas, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, Al-Qaeda, and a myriad of other terror groups and terrorist supporters, is gaining adherents all over the globe. 12,000 foreign fighters are currently fighting with ISIS, including 500 British citizens and at least 100 American citizens. Why are these Americans joining ISIS? Let ISIS affiliate and former cop, ex-Catholic Don Morgan, 44, explain. Here's what he said. My reason for the support of ISIS is because they've proven time and time again to put Islamic law at the priority of the establishment of an Islamic State as their goal. I would not classify myself as a radical, but by Western definitions, I would be classified a radical. Already, we've seen the first early signs of ISIS sympathizers in the United States. Thus far, these sympathizers are largely sounding off on social media, tweeting out pictures of ISIS flags near potential terror targets. But the Department of Homeland Security is worried about the possibility of violent action by ISIS fans in the United States. DHS and the FBI have told local law enforcement because of the individualized nature of the radicalization process, it's difficult to predict triggers that will contribute to attempting acts of violence. Now, this warning came just a few weeks after NBC White House correspondent Chris Jansing said at the White House, there's nothing in the intelligence that suggests that ISIS is preparing or even interested in attacking the U.S. homeland. Within hours of that announcement, the feds arrested an alleged ISIS sympathizer at JFK Airport in New York for weapons trafficking and possession. You can read this full story at the website at wdeanshook.com. And here's one that the mainstream media is never going to tell you. 11 jetliners are missing after the Islamist takeover of an airport. It says 11 commercial jets have reportedly been stolen in recent weeks in Libya, and Western agencies have begun warning they could be used in terror attacks. According to a report in the Free Beacon, the jets were taken by Islamist militants in Libya. Reports distributed within the U.S. government included a warning that one or more of the aircraft could be used in an attack on the date making the anniversary of 9/11. One official in the report, assembled by the highly respected Bill Gertz, said there's a number of commercial airlines in Libya that are missing. We found out on September 11th what can happen to hijacked planes. Well, who is Bill Gertz? Gertz now is senior editor of the Free Beacon, but he built his career during 27 years as a reporter, editor, and columnist at the Washington Times. He also authored 6 books. His online biography reveals the state-run Zana news agency in 2006 identified him as the #1 anti-China expert in the world. His report about the missing jetliners notes authorities have a high level of concern because of the coverage of the cases of missing airplanes and the 13th anniversary of September 11th terror attacks. The officials quoted by Gertz said U.S. intelligence agencies are now trying to locate all of the airplanes belonging to two Libyan airline companies. They have not confirmed the aircraft theft, which reportedly happened after the takeover by terrorists of Tripoli International Airport in August. The state-owned Libya Airlines fleet until this summer included 14 passenger and cargo jets, including 7 Airbus 320s, 1 Airbus 330, 2 French ATR-42 turboprop aircraft, and 4 Bombardier CJR 900s. Africa Airways fleet is made up of 13 aircraft, including the Airbus 319s, 7 Airbus 320s, 2 Airbus 330s, and 1 Airbus 340. Libya has been an uncontrolled disaster ever since the Obama administration engineered the removal of Muammar Gaddafi from office. His departure left terror factions struggling for control as the nation's been plunged into chaos. This is another story at the website wdeanshook.com that's very well worth the read. Well, WND is reporting that the U.S. government is breeding terrorists in Minnesota. Even as President Obama launched airstrikes against the Al-Shabaab terrorist group in Somalia, a pipeline for potential new Somali terrorists continued to fester right here in the United States. It's called the Refugee Resettlement Program, and it continues unabated under the leadership of the U.S. State Department and with the help of several Christian charities. Minneapolis, Minnesota, sits at the heart of the controversial program known as Little Mogadishu. The city has since 1983 welcomed thousands of Somali refugees, most of whom are practicing Muslims and attend a local mosque or Islamic center. While the Minneapolis-St. Paul area plays host to the largest Somali refugee population, it's not the only American city that's taking in refugees from this war-torn African nation. Columbus, Ohio, San Diego, California has also served as refugee resettlement hotspots. The State Department, working with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, chooses the communities largely because they're viewed as welcoming of foreign refugees and also because they have well-developed social welfare programs. Catholic Charities, Lutheran Social Services, and World Relief, which is an evangelical group, resettled them there because the welfare is so good in Minnesota. That was the main reason, says Ann Cochran, an activist who has written hundreds of articles about the Somali resettlement program for Refugees Resettlement Watch. That's also the case with Maine. A lot of Somalis are going there for the same reason. The Christian charities have worked quietly behind the scenes, using millions of dollars in federal grants to resettle the refugees in these chosen cities. Catholic Charities, the Lutheran Social Services of Minnesota, and World Relief work as contractors to help Somali children get integrated into American life. They're placed in foster homes, taught English, educated in public schools, and provided with government health care. But a number of them will not end up assimilating into American culture. They'll be radicalized, either at a local mosque or on the internet, and return to Somalia to wage jihad against the Western-backed government. Some have also joined ISIS in Syria. The trend was underscored last week when it was reported that 2 Somalis, both from Minneapolis, had linked up with the ISIS terrorist organization in Syria and was killed on the battlefield in that country's civil war. And what's going on with this in Germany? Residents of a German city have expressed concern after a group of young radical Islamists started taking to the streets late at night, trying to deter revelers from drinking and gambling. According to Breitbart News, the self-styled Sharia police have been patrolling an area around the city's train station, declaring the popular nightlife area to be a Sharia-controlled zone. Deutsche Welles report the witnesses have seen them handing out leaflets urging people not to drink alcohol, attend concerts, gamble, watch pornography, or visit prostitutes. The men are believed to be from the Sufi sect of Islam, which is closely related to the Wahhabite belief practiced in Saudi Arabia. They walk around dressed in orange high-visibility vests with the words Sharia Police written on the back in English. The city's real police said they stopped 11 men aged between 19 and 33 on Wednesday night and may bring charges of illegally assembling against them. However, after numerous residents complained to them, they have now also set up a hotline allowing people to report their concerns about the group. The city's mayor, Peter Jung, supported the police. These people's intention is to provoke and intimidate and enforce their ideology on others, he said. This is an open and tolerant city which is proud of the fact that people of different religions and convictions live together in peace. The group had originally posted a video on YouTube proudly boasting of their activities. The account has now been suspended, however, although others have reproduced it. Well, we've heard that President Obama is going to delay his executive orders for amnesty. Well, dreamers vow to escalate activism after Obama's slap to the face. When I found this story, it concerned me. I'm sure it's going to concern you. On Saturday, after the White House announced that President Barack Obama will not enact executive amnesty before the midterms election, pro-amnesty groups vowed to escalate their activism with what they call a slap to the face. Cristina Jimenez of the Pro-Amnesty United We Dream group has confronted lawmakers like Senator Ted Cruz and staged mock funerals for the GOP in Congress. Said Obama's latest broken promise is another slap to the face of the Latino and immigrant community. Where we have demanded leadership and courage from both Democrats and the president, we received nothing but broken promises and lack of political backbone, she said, accusing Obama of being more interested in politics than protecting illegal immigrants. The Dreamers will not soon forget the president and Democrats' latest failure and their attempt to fool the Latino community, and we remain absolute in fighting for justice for our families. She vowed that dreamers across the country will escalate until the moral crisis in our community is lifted and millions of people are liberated from the fear of being torn from their families. DRM action, which has sent dreamers to confront Republicans like Steve King, blasted Obama for another broken promise. Senate Democrats urged Obama in recent days not to enact an executive amnesty that caused the party to lose control of the Senate. While the White House did say that Obama would enact executive amnesty this year that could grant temporary amnesty and work permits to nearly 5 million illegal immigrants, pro-amnesty groups like La Raza want their rights, and they want them now. They don't want to wait for another 2 months. On Friday, La Raza's CEO and president said her community was done waiting and demanded that Obama enact executive amnesty for up to 8 million illegal immigrants, and it seems like Obama's announcement will only embolden dreamers and pro-amnesty groups that have staged plenty of protests across the country in front of the White House this summer. Now, the part of this story that really bothers me is the part that says, but pro-amnesty groups like La Raza want their rights, and they want them now. What rights do you have when you're in this country illegally to demand amnesty? My goodness, folks, how did we get to this point? And as usual, when the dust settles and the smoke clears, I'll see you on our next update. I'm your host, W. Dean Shook, and remember, this program stays alive by you visiting our sponsors at wdeanshook.com. We want you to visit GoDaddy. You can get your own domain name for as little as $4.99. Please help support this program by supporting our sponsors. Thank you.
You can get these full stories and more at wdeanshook.com. That's wdeanshook.com.